From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
Welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is your weekly podcast about consumption. We are proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. If you want to head over to yourunpodcast.com, you can find a lot of great shows over there, including ours. Definitely worth checking out. With me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast, and his name is Sean. And Sean, how are you doing this cold, snowy, kind of shitty evening?
John, I'm not only crooked, I'm sick.
Sounds like a personal problem.
Do you know that I'm like, I quote the movie? I say something out of the movie. Has that come across? Okay.
I do. I don't know that anyone else does.
I say something that comes across from the movie.
I don't always remember what you're quoting from the movie.
Me neither.
But there's been a couple times where I've gotten to what you were going to say ahead of you, so that's good.
Good.
Yeah. Aside from the title of this week or the main topic, what else have you been watching?
I got a few things under my belt. I'll start with the thing that brought me the most joy, and that was a documentary that I rediscovered. I've seen it before, I feel like, but I decided I wanted to watch it again. It's called A League of Ordinary Gentlemen, and it follows, I believe it follows...
That's on my watch list, too.
I believe it follows, what is it, the 2002 PBA tour or something? When they
like that.
Tried to move it
right around
off
when they were losing
trying to
their
reinvent
ABC
themselves.
Contract.
Yeah. So PBA is the Pro Bowlers Association. It ran on ABC from, I want to say, the 60s or so, early 60s till about 2000-ish. And at the time of this documentary, the PBA was kind of ending its contract with ABC, and it was starting to be picked up on ESPN, and they wanted to try and make it a little bit more exciting. So they brought in, or I guess sell more viewers or whatever to bowling and the PBA. So they brought in executives from Nike, former executives from Nike, who decided that they were going to try and spruce it up a little bit.
Kill their career.
They got some regulars on the PBA, and they tried to, one of them in particular, Pete Weber, was kind of I don't know, he's a little audacious, he's a little rambunctious. He likes the crotch chop.
American badass guy.
Yeah, with the feathered hair and all that good stuff.
I'm going to chime in because I watched this too.
Yeah, let's have a conversation.
I like that this guy, Pete Weber, if that's his real name, I don't remember their names because they all
that is his real
together.
Name.
I feel like Pete Weber he kind of looks like Butthead, but like he kind of looks like Butthead if you told him to go to Kohl's and get the most outrageous bowling outfit that you can find. So he's wearing like 1990s kind of baggy khakis, like some New Balance dad shoes that have been converted to bowling shoes, and like this mix of Hawaiian and bowling shirts. So it's like flowers and flames, plus some like big ass aviators where he's, crotch chopping and shit like that. So he was, as far as characters go, he's kind of a cunt, but he's kind of the character at the same time.
Yeah, his dad was a famous bowler. Dick Weber was his dad, and he was like, I don't know. I'm going to get it out of the way. Were you ever in a league? Did you bowl? Was that ever your thing?
I did as a kid, and I actually do enjoy bowling as like something to do, and I wouldn't mind getting into a league, but I've never had more than like one other person say they want to do it, and that's like doing a 6-man fantasy league. Like that's just sad.
Yeah.
So I don't do it. I'm not good at it. I should start with that. Like I absolutely suck at it, but I also only play like once every other year, so I don't know how I'm gonna improve with those kind of odds.
Practice makes perfect.
Roughly 600 days.
Every other year.
Yeah. No, I haven't been in a league since I was a kid, though.
I bowled in high school because I'm that cool. I mean, you could probably tell from looking at me that I'm pretty cool. So, that probably fits the profile. But I've bowled in high school. I bowled in a couple leagues, but not like men's leagues. Like I've been in mixed leagues. I bowled with my dad. My dad's like a big bowler. My dad's in his 80s and he still bowls. Like he's on a weekly league. It might be weak, I don't know, but I think it's pretty strong because it's my dad. And then my mom bowled for a long time. They bowled together on Saturday nights. Lots of memories of bowling alleys, and in particular,
my parents bowled all through my like adolescence, lots of memories of bowling alleys and a lot of money spent on pinball.
Well, in this documentary, they visit my home alley. They visit Taylor
the one in
Lanes in
Taylor?
Taylor, Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know if it's actually still there. I haven't been that way in a long time. But they go through the season. They follow a couple different guys. Pete Weber is one that's on the top. They have Walter Ray Williams, who is like arguably the top bowler at the time. He was also a top horseshoe player. And they follow another guy.
Same skill, really, just kind of dragging your arm and letting something go.
You let it go. And then they follow another guy, and I can't remember his name, but he is kind of on the downswing, no pun intended, of his career. And another guy who's a younger-ish guy, he's probably in his mid to early 30s, who has a young family, and they kind of show them on the road and driving to all these different tournaments. I don't know if they necessarily fly, but I know Walter Ray Williams, I think that's his name. He has an RV. A lot of these guys have RVs they drive around, but it follows them throughout the season, and it culminates in Taylor, Michigan, where at the Taylor Sportsplex they build a bowling lane, and people have been there since like 6 a.m. to watch this thing that starts at 2 p.m.
I love the sign they have that I forget where they were. It's like before they get there, but it says Taylor Bowling Lanes, kind of near Detroit. It's like, yeah, sure, close enough.
Sure, yeah, as close as you and I live to Detroit at this point. But yeah, it's an entertaining doc. Had you seen it before? Or is this your first time?
No, I hadn't seen it before. I started watching the Rose Bowl and got bored because Ohio State was up by like a lot and Oregon was just shitting themselves and jerking off. I was like, well, I don't need to watch this. So I found this, plugged it. I was like, well, this is going to be one of two things. It's either going to be like a mockumentary that's very like in the vein of Big Lebowski and whatnot, or it's going to be just like the best little pile of trash that I can find for the moment. And I got my wish. One thing I really liked about it, I like the everyman interviews that they do near the beginning where there's a guy who's like, if it weren't for all these fucking women having us making babies and all this dumb shit, we'd still be able to bowl without a problem. Now you want us at home and you can't go out bowling? That's why bowling's dying. I'm like, yes, let's blame women for bowling not being successful.
Goddamn women.
Right. In 2004, when I think this came out in 2004, I'm like, that makes sense. So I thought that was pretty good. And like I said, just the overall like perception that these guys, I mean, I guess the one dude, Ray or whatever, the guy that won it, I guess he made some money, but I think they said his jackpot was what, like $30,000 or something like that. Like that.
No, I thought it was, yeah, maybe whatever, 40.
I think they said his total winnings were like around 180K or something, but I don't know how long that is. That like your entire career?
No, his entire career, he's made over $3 million bowling.
Is that now or is that at the time?
Well, at the time, I don't know. I haven't followed his career since, A League of Ordinary Gentlemen, but they made, some of those guys made, they had $1 million careers, and I don't know how many years that was, but that guy in particular made a lot of money because he won a lot of tournaments.
I do think we need to make the pilgrimage down to Taylor and see if the downtrodden guy is still running the karaoke night at the Taylor Bowling Alley, because that might be kind of entertaining to see.
He does live in Las Vegas now, or he did at the end of filming. So he wouldn't
probably
be there.
Does not. So.
Yeah. One of the bowlers brings his karaoke kit because that's like his second career, or that was a
side
previous
hustle,
career.
Basically.
Yeah. So he was trying to launch it again while he was at Taylor Lanes. So that was A League of Ordinary Gentlemen. As always, all the stuff we mentioned, we'll make the best effort to put it in the show notes. So if you're interested in watching a bowling documentary from 2004 or so, yeah, it'll be, I think it's free on Tubi or one of those. I know it's on a couple different services.
It is on Tubi. I saw it. I was like, oh, I just watched this. And yeah, moved on.
And if you ever watch Documentary Now, the spoof IFC show where they make, I don't know, they don't make fun of, they parody documentaries. There was one based on this. Other than that, I watched a movie called The Nest, which I think is 1988, and it's on Plex. Plex TV has it on there. And it's basically, without getting too deep into it, it is a movie about a small island off the coast of North Carolina that has cockroaches that are flesh-eating cockroaches. And so the townspeople, these are new cockroaches. They haven't always been there. It takes over the small town. All these small town people get munched on by flesh-eating cockroaches.
Question.
Yeah.
Does it impregnate a woman's kid and then give birth later?
No, not any.
Something like
it
that?
doesn't give birth to any humans.
Okay.
So it's
Our
got some
friend of the
great,
show, Sam, brought up a very, now I gotta find what it was, a similar sounding slug slash infestation type
cockroach.
thing. Yeah, something like. Go continue. I'll find out what
All
he
right.
was talking about just for the point of reference.
So it's got some great, some great effects for the time. It's got some great montages of cockroaches crawling all over a diner while La Cucaracha plays in the background. So I thought that was pretty fun. And like I said, it's got some pretty gnarly but also laughable effects. What happens is these roaches can start to, I don't know if they mutate or they do something where they can start merging things together that they eat. So one scene they trap a cat in this box out in the woods to test these cockroaches to see if they're like, what the deal, how they can be killed or whatever. And they use this cat as bait. And the cat gets all chewed up, and eventually the cat turns into like a cat roach hybrid. And it actually turns some people into roach people hybrids. So it was pretty entertaining. I give that one a recommend if you're interested in watching a disgusting movie about cockroaches that eat human flesh. Well, all types of flesh, I guess. Watch The Nest. And other than that,
the movie I was referring to is called The Abomination from 1988.
Oh, same.
You want to hear that?
Yeah, tell me.
I haven't watched this, but it sounds like it's perfect for this show. An old woman coughs up what she believes to be a tumor. While asleep, the thing crawls inside of her son and reproduces inside of him, then causes him to go on a killing spree to feed it.
I actually think I was looking at this the other day of things to watch. Do you see any screenshots or anything?
There looks to be either vagina or penis monster eating a woman in like a negligee on the cover.
Are there anything that looks like a puppet mouth, like a big, huge mouth that's being puppeted with these big white teeth?
With like a head in the middle of it. It kind of looks like a watermelon or a hot dog, like with teeth.
So it looks like Venus flytrap or something, but with
a little
something.
bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I was going to watch this and I didn't.
Okay. Well, let's save that and just go ahead and say it now since we'll come back up later. We can go ahead and turn that into an episode at some point because Sam, if you're listening, we might be asking you to come join us soon because again, just from the cover and that description I read to you, I'm like, this sounds like something that needs to be experienced. Yes.
Well, and the last thing I wanted to talk about, I have a visual aid. So if you're watching the podcast, this is a video podcast. I picked this book up. It is, I don't know if you can see that. It's Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter. And David Dastmalchian is the writer of this comic. And this is the first graphic novel. I think there's 4. And basically what it is a character, a reporter that gets she's down on her luck and she's looking for work and her brother runs a station. And she gets talked into being like a Count Scary or like one of the hosts for Midnight Movie kind of thing on TV. And she comes to find out that the Count Crowley character that she's taking over for is like, it's kind of like Fright Night where Roddy McDowall is like, he's actually, well, he knows stuff about monsters. He's like a monster hunter. And this is kind of following the same trajectory as that. She's an unwilling monster hunter that eventually becomes a willing monster hunter. It's pretty entertaining. This is released on Dark Horse Comics and I read the first one. It was like a breeze. Whenever I get graphic novels, I just tear through them pretty quick. So I'm looking forward to continuing the story in the next, issue, novel, little compendium of multiple issues. But yeah, it's what
Are they already out or are they still?
Yeah, no, these I think 3 may have just come out. So as all roads lead to Found Footage Fest for me, they interviewed him and he was talking about this. So I was like, I'll pick it up and see what it's all about, see what I think of it. And I quite enjoyed it. So I'll be looking forward to picking up the next couple arcs of the story or what have you.
Does that mean it's my turn?
That means it's your turn, John.
Well, good. You get to be interactive with this one too, because I watched Driver 23 after watching the bowling documentary.
Nice.
I did not start the second one yet. I will get around to it, but I agree with you that his weightlifting machine with the cinder blocks over his skull is it's
the safest way.
There's a lot of this documentary where, and again, his music is so. Was it last week we were talking about this? Yeah. I believe. So if you don't know what we're talking about, Sean goes in more detail on Driver 23 last week on our Murder Rock episode. or maybe Slashdance, but not this Slashdance.
Not to be confused with this Slashdance.
Right. So there's a certain type of, basement metal musician that I kind of had in my head, and this guy pretty much embodies the majority of it. I'll say the music is a little less shreddy than I expected, and I mean that from a metal term, for lack of better wording, but it's equally like, so I used to always say, like, growing up in the punk scene, like in the metal scene similar to this, like there's those guys that kind of come around, they're like, is this guy, did he just like sniff too much glue and he's just kind of permanently like brain melted, or is he, was something wrong? Like, you never really know, but they're like highly functioning glue sniffers or something like that. Just not highly successful glue sniffers. I don't know. It's the kind of documentary, like I went into it with moderate expectations based off our conversation. I left it like, that's kind of exactly what I expected, but it was worth giving a watch. So if you like goofy Minnesota metal guys, this is a documentary for you. Speaking of brain melting, I finally got around to watching the 2024 iteration of Street Trash. Here's what I'll say about it. There is an attempt at a story here, and I actually like the attempt at the story because it's very much so like, it's on the poster. It says Melt the Rich or something like that. They're very much so trying to like weaponize this shit, and essentially the poor are trying, it's the poor versus the haves for the has-nots, the poor versus the rich, blah, blah, blah. The problem with that is not you, but they try to cram like 5 minutes of story into 90 minutes of movie, and that 5 minutes of story is not very fleshed out aside from the Melt the Rich line. That's pretty much it. The upside is similar to Street Trash, the original, the 1987, I think it was, the one we talked about last summer, fall, something like that.
Yep.
Much like that, it's a showcase for special effects. Like when the movie gets gross and goopy and all that stuff, it's pretty entertaining for that. Like you get to see, in fact, I will go as far to say it definitely excels far past what they did in the first one. If what you want to see is the goop and all that stuff, you get to see arms being ripped off and melted off, faces, all that type of shit. So if you just want to see like a special effects like smorgasbord, you're not going to leave totally disappointed. If you're expecting a well-told story, I suggest don't have higher expectations than the last time we watched a movie called Street Trash. Although I don't remember any bum dick or anything like that in this one. So that's good for what it is, right? So.
Does it have much of a connection to the original, or is it just name only?
Mostly
or maybe
in name,
concept.
Just in name. Like it doesn't have any viper liquor or anything like that. If I remember right, they're actually injecting people with this stuff, and it reacts somehow quicker than the other stuff. So it's mostly in name and what happens to these bodies once they are infected with this stuff. But it's not, I mean, it's still pretty like neon as far as the color palette and stuff. Like things do come out in like purple and green goopy, like crazy shit like that. But it's, I don't know what's a good way. It looks more like 2024 neon as opposed to 1980s neon, if that makes any sense at all. Like it just has a different feel to it. But I'd say as far as like, is it better or worse than the original? It's about a lateral move. Like it does look better in the sense, obviously newer cameras, newer technology, blah, blah, blah. It looks better in that sense. The acting's better. I would say there's about as much story. Like I like this story more than the story of like these bums get drunk and like melt essentially, and occasionally have fights. Yeah. Like I like this story more because there is an attempt at like a story that could potentially be worth telling, but I didn't exactly go into Street Trash expecting like, Francis Ford Coppola level storytelling either. So buyer beware, I suppose, but it's worth giving a watch if you have any love for the other one. The last thing I'll bring up that I watched, this one, so this is on Tubi right now. And this was kind of I won't say, this has been on my radar for a while, but it's a movie called Free LSD. This goes back to what we said last week also. What was I talking about last week? Oh, the Aaron Rodgers thing. In the form of, I prefer my vanity projects to be told like champagne and bullets, as opposed to what this is. And I'm not 100% sure here's what the good thing is. So this is a movie that is the brainchild of the band Off. Off is a, I guess, super group comprised of Keith Morris and guys from Red Cross, and I forget who the two new guys are that are in the band now, or they're broken up now, but are in the band in this movie. The drummer and the bass player, they changed from their first couple albums. Anyway, when they came out to do their newest album, which is called Free LSD, they announced that they were going to do a film with it, like a feature film, which coming from the punk rock scene is really fucking weird, but I respect the fact that they're artists and they're trying to do something different. I guess that's cool. And what I can say is from a film standpoint, it looks good. The sound's good. It's competently made. And the music is great because I like the album that it's on. From a movie and storytelling standpoint, I am not 100% sure what I watched. I don't know if that's because... So the premise of this movie is based... I'm not sure if this is... What I took from it is these guys are some kind... They're essentially like unlocked people, and by taking LSD, they unlock their true selves and they become the band off, and then whatever. But there's also like bad forces trying to stop them via the use of LSD and kill them or whatever. And this goes on for some time. Every band member has like an alter ego before they take the LSD, and then they become the member of Off after they take the LSD, and things happen. There's some pretty good practical effects in it. There's some gory shit that happens, and that stuff's kind of cool. It is, for a movie that's called Free LSD, I kind of expected more of a drug trip of a movie, for better or worse, but I was equally confused as to what the actual story was, because it's really just not mapped out well as far as storytelling. But I also got the impression like this feels more like an indie art project than a movie. Take it with a grain of salt. If you like Black Flag, if you like the Circle Jerks, if you like Off, any of those, or Red Cross, any of those bands that these members were in, it's worth giving a watch because it's, that scene and that stuff. So it's cool for that. If you have no interest in any of those things, buyer beware. You're probably going to leave it like, I didn't even like the music. So
avoid like
take
the
that
plague.
for what I'm not going to go that far because, again, it is very indie art movie type thing, and there's a lot of people that like shit. A24 exists for a reason, right? So there's a lot of people that like that weird indie stuff that might leave people a bit confused. Even as a fan of this band, I left it like, I'm never going to watch this again, but I'm glad they made it. I don't want to talk bad about it because I don't get the impression that they're filmmakers. I get the impression that they're artists. Oh, it's another glaring example too of musicians are generally not actors. Yeah. So there's that too.
Unless you're Bon Jovi.
What is he in?
I don't know, bunch of shit.
Okay, well, fuck him. So yeah, Free LSD. It's on Tubi. Watch at own risk, I suppose. But yeah, that's all I got for now. I'll save other stuff for later. With that in mind, I say we're going to go ahead and take a break. We're going to come back and we are going to talk about the movie Slashdance for the second week in a row. But this time we're talking about a different Slashdance that is in no way giallo anything. It's jello at best. So we'll be right back and we're going to talk about the movie. Hi everyone, AI John here. If you're a horror fan like me, check out the Fans of the Dead podcast. Mike and Jeremy dedicate every episode to a horror film, from the popular to the unknown. You can get their takes on some of the movies we've talked about, including Terrifier, The Burning, and Ghostbusters. Head over to yourunpodcast.com to check them out and all the other members of the You Run Podcast Network. Okay, so this January's running theme is that Rotten Tomatoes does not have any reviews for these movies. In fact, I think this started before January, but we're now on either the third or fourth week in a row where there's been no third-party reviews from Rotten Tomatoes, but I'm going to go ahead and read two from Letterboxd because I kind of think they play off each other really well.
We're just so far under the radar that Rotten Tomatoes doesn't even have anything.
That's actually true at the moment. I mean, even if you go over to IMDb, there's only 321 ratings on there. So Take it for what it's worth.
That's my line.
Sorry. So on Letterboxd, we're going to start with Belial Cabroni, I guess. And they say Slash Dance was not the slasherific aerobics dance-a-thon I had hoped for. Saw the name, push play, brain melted, but not in a good way, per se, but more of a confused, painful brain melt. What we have here is a clumsy police procedural crime drama that is ugly, that has an ugly made-for-90s TV look. I'll stick with Killer Workout for my slasherific aerobics. Not sure when this comes out, but if it's not the 23rd, we're going to be playing that movie at Batch down in Corktown, so you can come
Which
see
one?
that. This might Killer Workout.
Oh, okay, cool.
So Bilal Cabroni gives us 2 stars out of 5. In contrast, Tony the Terror says, I'm just shocked that not a single person I follow has this rated higher than 3 stars, and almost everyone says 2 or below. What the fuck? This is the very definition of disaster piece. It's the height of terribly fucking wonderful. 5 stars. So with these 2 polarizing opinions, Sean, what is Slash Dance about?
Okay. And to find that out, we go over to IMDb. We type in the word Slash Dance. This brings us to a website that's inside IMDb. Go figure that one out for yourself. And it shows that it's from 1989. It gets 3 stars out of 10 from 320 ratings. There's no rating. There's no number out of nothing. This is not a popular movie, as you could probably guess. The storyline of the plot, we'll go to the one on the top first. It says, a female cop goes undercover as a dancer at an old theater to catch a serial killer who has been murdering women auditioning for a musical. And if we scroll on down to the bottom to the storyline, it basically says the exact same thing. No basic about it. It does say the exact same thing. A female cop goes undercover as a dancer at an old theater to catch a serial killer who has been murdering women auditioning for a musical.
So, before we get into anything else, there's only one person that I recognize in this entire movie. Is there anyone that we should care about, though?
Well, who do you recognize?
I recognize John Richardson because he's in Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers also.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the only person that I picked up on.
He plays Edison, Edison is what? What is he in this movie?
Some fucker.
Okay. So the other people that, the other
I don't
ones
know these characters by name, whatever.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, Edison. Who is Edison? I couldn't think. Looking at his face, I can't tell what character he plays Edison, but I don't know. Edison is the captain. He's the police captain. Okay. So other than that, we have
this picture is like 30 years after whenever this movie was shot.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, it's not helpful at all. Cindy Ferda at the time was Cindy. I don't know, a different name, and she plays Tori Raines, who is the main character. Her, Dee Boer, and Kelly Favre all were in Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Glow. They were Glow wrestlers. So that's the one big thing I was going to mention. Dee Boer plays Repo, and Kelly Favre is Mavis. And then J. Buzz Ornsteiner. Oh, I think I said that right the first time. He has been in a few things. He plays basically one of the brothers that run this theater. And he's been in stuff like great movies like Evil Kin and Evil Twins. Lots of evil movies. He was in Slash Dance, and he was in a movie called Deadly Affairs. Actually, it looks like that maybe was a TV show. He played a police interrogator. So he had a headshot, so I read his name. And yeah, I don't recognize him for anything but this movie.
I just noticed too, and I actually checked this beforehand. They now have a bunch of subgenres under this, which apparently is something they put on every movie now instead of just saying it's a horror movie or it's a comedy movie. What genre would you call this movie?
I think it kind of goes back to...
Scooby-Doo is not a genre, right?
No, I don't think so. But it kind of goes back to what we said a couple weeks ago about dramas, where they call it a drama because they can't really categorize it as anything else. It does have some, I guess I would consider it a comedy drama thriller, maybe?
I almost wonder if it's supposed to be a horror spoof.
Yeah, I get horror because there are some elements, there are some weird choices that are made.
Well, it's clearly trying to go into the slasher ideology because it's called Slash Dance for one, and it's about a mysterious killer offing people, kind of. But I mean, we'll just get into it from here, I guess. Everything in this movie, as far as how every single person in this movie, every single actor, every single portrayal of everything is so fucking Looney Tunes from start to finish. And I said Scooby-Doo can't be a genre, and I'm going to skip like right to the end. Like this guy, like straight up like pillowcase Zodiac mask at the end when they're like, oh, it is Mr. Curly under the like It's 100% like when I did watch half of this before. Apparently, I stopped it with 40 minutes left last time, which speaks volumes to how I feel about this movie, I think. But there's something about this that's it's so goofy on how pretty much everything is portrayed, including the murders, that I was like, is this supposed to be a spoof or is this like because it's not there's nothing scary about this movie at all. So
No.
I have a hard time calling it a horror movie.
Yeah.
But I feel like spoof might be the best way to really categorize it and be even close to like what might have been the intention.
Well, I also feel like it's kind of wackety schmackety. It's very campy. They try
And
to
that
make
plays
it,
into the spoof.
yeah, and the jokes that are made, a lot of them are puns. You know, just that kind of
Yeah.
feeling. Like it feels very much like how Revenge of the Radioactive Reporter felt, kind of campy in the
Little
same
bit.
way. They have really similar vibes, and you know, just to mention, this is our sweaty January or New Year's resolutions. This is the third movie in that series for 2025. And the movies we talked about last year were the ones that we wanted to talk about for the month. And this year we're focused more on dance movies that feature dance or aerobics or weightlifting to kind
We're
of get
scraping the bottom of the
outside.
barrel.
Yes, we are scraping the bottom of the bottom of the barrel. And I don't know, based on watching this, if we're going to, I do have 4 more movies that we can talk about next year. So hopefully if we're
Oh,
going to do that next week, saves us from this torture that I'm subjecting us to. But it just has a really, like I said, it just has like a really campy, comedic horror. Not really even horror. Like I want to point out one thing. This movie, like at the beginning of the movie, these women go to this theater to audition for a show, and they're murdered. Like they're the person that's supposed to be there watching their audition, it doesn't talk, and they kind of creep up on them and they murder them. There's like next to no blood that's ever shown. It's very just kind of milquetoast. It's like you could show
It's
this
like
on
their
TV.
budget allowed. It's like their budget allowed them to buy a bottle of ketchup and said good enough.
Yeah, that. And then it took me almost until the end of the movie for me to realize that this audition area that they were auditioning in was in the same theater as they were trying to put this production on. Like they don't look at all similar. It's just near the end of the movie, the main character, Tori, goes upstairs or whatever into this other part of the theater. And that's when I realized, oh shit, this is supposed to be actually be the same place that these murders are happening, because I thought like these women are going to these auditions and they're being murdered. How come nobody can figure out what theater this is at? They just have to ask these women where they were going the last, somebody has to say like, you knew April, where did April say she was going before she disappeared? I mean, and they could have cracked the case, but I don't know. It's really weird the way they present it.
I also wrote, and I wrote this down this time, and I don't think this would have been the reason I stopped watching the movie. Maybe because there's no nudity in this movie, it would have been a reason to stop it. But I also found myself not really knowing what these women were auditioning for or what kind of I actually wrote in the middle of my notes. So probably like 45 minutes in, I wrote, so are these women trying to be strippers or actresses or like, what are they dancing for or auditioning for? Because there's never, up until about 40 minutes, 45, halfway through the movie, all they really do is they go up, and I want to say there's a pole on the stage for reasons. I don't think so. No.
Mm-mm.
Well, most of what they do is just kind of like gyrate and like crotch grind and stuff, but they're doing like
jazz. They're doing like jazz steps or something. I think they're
doing a lot of dry humping and that's at the same time.
I'll say this. Tori is a police officer. She gets sent to this. She's like, the captain is not happy with her for whatever reason. Like he doesn't really know her, but
he wants to bone the fuck out of her.
Yeah. And she gets I don't know. She gets like a bad rap for, there was some arrest that she was involved in that, went wrong or something. And it brought bad publicity to the force, to the LA police. Like this is a huge stain on all the other shit that the LA police have done over the years. But like she's going to this theater to try and solve these murders to get out of the captain's hair because he's trying to get a position in the mayor's office or something. Like it's so convoluted, all the shit that happens. And I'd say the first half hour of the movie is probably them trying to develop like the other side hustles that she does. So she like breaks up this steroid ring where the 2 other glow wrestlers are at, and they come in later to help her solve the mystery or what, I don't even know. They come back in to provide the muscle for her against people. And then she's a bag lady, undercover bag lady that these two biker guys try to, I don't know, they try to rob her, but they try to molest her at the same time, and she arrests them, and then she gets put on this thing. So you're saying 42 minutes in, they start doing the dances. There's 30 minutes that happen in this movie before they even get to the dancey part of the movie. And the story that they're kind of filling in are these women going to audition for something that we have no idea what it is. And this is like this is now the third movie, right? Because they're all auditioning or dancing or doing the first movie was Pulse Beat. There's no real dancing. But neither this or Murder Rock, we have no idea what they're actually like trying to accomplish with this whole dance-a-rama they're in.
Right. And by the time you get to around the point I was saying, like the 45 minute point or so, you start seeing them kind of like this group of girls start rehearsing, I guess.
Yeah.
And I kind of got the impression like, okay, is this going for like a Vegas, like showgirl type thing? Because if it's a play, there is zero story. All they do is count to 8 and start over. Well, yeah, they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's it.
That's their line.
It's the whole thing.
Man, this script was tough to write. All right, what comes after 7? 8. Got it.
I didn't feel your delivery on 5. Please do it again. I don't know where I was going with that. I keep looking over at my notes and I see cunt punch and dick pain right back to back to me. Remembering the other glow at a lot of crotch punching going on at one point of this movie.
Well, I think it's funny that this woman, Tori, is supposed to be auditioning undercover as this dancer, and she is the worst of the dancers. When they show the thing where they're learning the steps, they're doing that like casting call where all the dancers are up. There's 20 dancers. They're all doing the steps, and they kind of tell, okay, number 7, you can go.
Terribly out of sync, which is kind of funny. So.
Yeah, and she's the worst one the entire time. Like even when they've selected their final 6 girls or whatever, right? And she's still the worst one, and she's been practicing all this time. It's just there's this story again that these women are getting killed off, and you're trying. They give you red herrings with the guy that I mentioned, Osterstein or whatever his name is, the actor.
Yeah, the crazy guy, quote crazy guy.
Yeah, he's a little unstable. He eats like live goldfish and all this whatever other weird shit. So they do try and throw you off the case a little bit, but I don't know. It's one of those movies where it just felt like the movie felt like it was put together, or at least like if you look at the cover, if you watch some of the movie, it very much feels like it's supposed to be a TNA movie. But you hit the nail on the head earlier. There's no nudity. The violence, I mean, okay, you don't need violence, but even the killings are really bland.
I feel
Nothing
like if
really
Slash
happens.
is in the I feel like if Slash is in the title, there should be some violence.
There should. Yeah, I'm totally on board with you. And it just comes across really limp.
Boring.
Yeah, boring and limp just across the board.
Well, it's kind of boring. It's kind of limp. It feels like a bait and switch in a way. Like, again, if you look, and you'll see it on the cover art the thumbnail for this episode, it will be similar to this. It looks like something that should be in the vein of, the aforementioned Death Spa, Aerobicide, and so on. And it almost, again, when we were talking about this one last week, I was like, this cover looks a lot like the Murder Size cover. And I realized this came out like 30 years before Murder Size, but it looks like exactly like, in fact, I think that's why I started watching this last year. I was like, oh, this is because we had our surprise 5th Tuesday in January last year. I was like, oh, this looks like it's kind of in the vein of what we're going for. And then I got bored and turned it off. Yeah, there's just a lot of things in this that are so unpolished and made for TV, but not in a good way, feeling like made for 80s TV that had like super censorship all over it. I mean, the audio through this too, like, holy shit, is the audio bad in this entire fucking movie.
It does. You mentioned the murder, I want to say Aerobicide, the Murder Size piece. This one feels like you said, this one, and I feel like the last one, Murder Rock, but this one more so because it's kind of filmed on that shot on video look. It's got that kind of, I don't know. It just has that look to it. It feels like
it's because it was.
Yeah. They took big inspiration from Murder Size, took big inspiration from this movie, but did it way better. And I want to ask you,
sure.
Last year, the movie that we threw in kind of after the fact was Hell Spa. If you can relive your trauma for me a little bit. Would you have preferred this or Hell Spa?
I don't really have a preference. I remember the trauma. I honestly don't really have a. I mean, that's like
Both shot on video.
yeah. Well, we seem to find those quite a bit on this channel. I hear that's what people go for, is to hear things that we don't. So we watch things so they don't have to.
Yeah,
That's
there you
what
go.
I've been told. What I remember of Hell Spa is that it was boring and not a lot happened, and neither of us really liked it. And it was by far the worst performing episode of last January. One of the worst performing episodes of last year. My thought on this one,
Yeah.
I don't know how this episode's going to perform, so I can't really compare it to that, at least not till probably February sometime. We won't revisit that because why bother? I feel like Hell Spa was at least a little bit closer to the horror genre, which
Yeah.
is what we were going for last year. And this, although it has horror elements, I feel like it's clearly outside of the horror genre. So if you were going to ask me, how do I prefer to be traumatized? Do I prefer to be stupid bored, or do I prefer to be attempted scary bored? I probably say stupid bored, but like we're splitting hairs, you know.
I think Hell Spa at least had the element
have
of the
gore in
computer
it.
system and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Have what in it?
So with Hell Spa, I feel like there was at least some kind of gore, some kind of like horror element like that. So at least it kind of delivered on the Hell Spa name, whatever that's worth. I should have known what to expect going into this, since apparently I watched half of it a year ago. But I feel like for what you see on the cover of this movie, and we've said it a bunch of times, like that's usually how I judge if I'm going to watch a movie or not. I get drawn in by the artwork or whatever. I don't do the trailer for the most part. This feels like a total bait and switch. Like you don't really get the elements that are like the cover or the poster is better than the movie. And I mean, shit, the poster has more TNA on it than the movie does. Like there's a couple underboobs and like a knife and some smoke and stuff. I'm like, all right, well, we're in the right wheelhouse here. None of that shit happens. So,
Well, none of either of these women are in the movie. It's just,
yeah, there's that too.
They're not
So-
even in it. So yeah,
Right.
I don't know.
Not that Hell Spa, you know, I'm not going to say Hell Spa, you know, under promised and over delivered, but here we are. I will say there's a scene near the end of this movie where I don't remember why if the killer is running away or if they're just going through the stadium, theater or whatever. They show this Bob Dylan Blood on the Tracks poster like 3 times in very clear, like center framed up shot. I was like, I feel like this entire fucking movie was made just so this guy could show his Bob Dylan poster on film somewhere.
Yeah.
Like
Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised because it's arguably the best shot of the movie, except it's not even my favorite Bob Dylan album. I don't even know if I have one, but it's not that.
Well, I do feel like the movie kind of, at times, it feels like it's trying to achieve something, like it's trying to punch above its weight or something, but the whole thing just feels really cheap. And I think, although it's shot on video, it does look good for that style of film or whatever, but
sounds like it's shot on video. So.
But there's scenes where like there's no sound. And I know there's one scene where there's like a freeze frame and they zoom in on the freeze frame because they didn't have the footage or whatever that they wanted to do for this specific thing. And it just looks like shit. So it's really a mixed bag. Like watching it, it's got that shot on video quality. If you're into that, this has that. But yeah, and the sound is just not great.
Well, it's one of those movies, and it's a shot on video movie, so you know that pairs to it. You can tell the sound is dictated by how far away the person is from the camera and or the microphone. They're not mic'd up individually. So if it's a wide shot, good luck fucking hearing anything. But if it's a close-up shot, like if the camera's as close like to the actor as my camera is to me right now, you'll probably hear everything louder than it needs to be, and will flush out and all that type of stuff. So it's one of those where you're going to be constantly like, just do yourself a favor and watch it with subtitles, because otherwise you're going to be constantly fucking with the volume trying to adjust for it, and you'll never really be able
you found
to either hear
subtitles
too
for
much.
this?
No, I didn't try, but I'm assuming
but you
there
would
are
recommend subtitles.
If it's on Tubi, I think it has to have subtitles. So
yeah. Well, I found it on
think.
YouTube. I didn't find it on Tubi. So
I believe YouTube puts has the option for captions on
auto-generated subtitles.
I
AI
believe so.
generated subtitles.
I mean, that makes sense. So
Those are probably good.
I don't have a lot to add. So what time is it?
Then you're in for a big treat, no? Because it's hot dog time.
I thought you would never ask.
I'll go ahead and lead us off this week because why not? There's not a lot of great stuff to this. Again, your glow wrestler, like steroid ladies that dick punch people. The title card looks good. This is how you know that this is the same thing I said about Tree Revenge. Like the best part is the title card. That's pretty much it. There's some goofy slapstickiness. Again, I like the Killer Zodiac killer mask knockoff thing that they Scooby-Doo away from him. It is a poorly written, poorly acted, goofy movie that's kind of maybe masquerading as a horror movie, but not really achieving it being a horror, a comedy, or either. So the best I can do is call it a spoof, but not a very good one. Would I recommend watching it? You know, maybe have a bite of the hot dog and then realize, like, this is the hot dog from the theater episode of Seinfeld that's been on the roller for like 18 years, like since the silent era, that as soon as you put it in your mouth, you say, this is perfectly sane food to eat, then proceed to power bomb it. So would I recommend it? Probably not. But, you know, it's probably not going to kill you.
Whose hot dog is this? That's yours?
All right, so for me, the month so far has been a real mixed bag, I think. They feel like they've all been along the lines of hard to recommend, but also endearing, like something about them is endearing. And this movie's, I guess it's a little bit more of the same. My only like that I wrote down in here is like the campy humor works sometimes. So, you know, it's got that. It's called Slash Dance, and there's a lot of dancing. There's a lot of them practicing the routine for something that we'll never figure out what it's actually for. But there's really next to no slashing. It feels like a low budget student film, honestly, that's slightly punching above its weight. And that's probably honestly what this is. It's got that campy sense of humor, and I can see it being a lot of fun for some people, but for me, I feel like it needs more TNA or just something to really be able to recommend the movie. They really tease you with a lot of these, you know, let's face it, pretty good looking women dancing around in leotards and stuff, but that's as far as it goes. And there feels like there's opportunities for there to be TNA, but maybe they didn't pay enough or something. Anyway, I give this movie half a hot dog. If it sounds intriguing to you, I'd say, you know, go watch it. We'll put a link in the show note, but I'm not going to ever watch this movie again. I think that's pretty safe to say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So this will not be a movie that we show at Frankenstein's. I can tell you that for sure.
We want people to come to that. So no.
Or to come back.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So our question of the week is kind of generic because this movie didn't really inspire a more fun question. So we went with this. We have 2 episodes that are going to be in February that basically have not been spoken for yet. They have no topic set for them. So we wanted to give you a chance to give us some recommendations as far as what we could do or what we could talk about. And there's a chance that these could get on the show.
Let me say this. Can we put up a poll someplace on some of these movies that we maybe pick and say, oh, that sounds interesting, and put a poll up of maybe 4 movies and say the 2 that get the highest votes or whatever can be, those are the ones we'll talk about?
I'm going to say yes. There's one of them that I think is going to skyrocket to the top regardless of poll, and we'll get to that in a second. The other ones we can
I'm not
put
picking
to a
that
poll.
one.
So our first response is over on Blue Sky, and it is from Christy, who is at Rishanana, or whatever. She says Tremors. Christy, politely, we've covered Tremors, and thank you for asking, but I did reply to you with a link to where you can check it out. So Tremors is awesome. We both really enjoyed it from what I know I did. I think Sean enjoyed that, right?
I did.
Sure? Yeah.
I've seen it
so
since.
Tremors, yes. Tremors is a movie that we've talked about. I wouldn't put past some of the sequels somewhere down in the roadmap, but they're not in the immediate future right now. But thank you for bringing it up, Christy, and we can revisit Tremors in the form of a sequel at some point. Do you want the hate watch ones first, or would you prefer the ones that are that are suggestions that we might enjoy first?
Dealer's choice, John. Surprise me. Thrill me.
We're going to skip over to Instagram then, and friend of the show, frequent contributor, and apparently woman that hates us, Jordana, has recommended 2 movies for us. Let's see if you can figure out who she's trying to piss off with each individual movie.
Okay. I love games.
She recommended that we cover It's funny because I know that I expressed this on the show and to her. Salem's Lot from 2024 and Clown.
One for each of us.
Exactly.
There you go. Cool.
It's almost like she was like, I know what these people get pissed off at. Let's go ahead and recommend those.
She knows us too well.
Those are both pullable options. We'll go ahead and say it that way. Then we're going to go bounce back over to Blue Sky, where Woods Podcast 1, our friends Boomer and Gabby, and I'm assuming Boomer wrote this, again, based off the titles. And again, this is where you can guess which one that I'm looking forward to. One of them would be for the movie Ringu, or the Japanese version of The Ring, the original, or Tokyo Gore Police, two very different iconic films from Japan. So he's telling us to go to Japan, basically. Which one do you think I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with that?
Tokyo Gore Police.
Yeah, that is correct. I would, if you are in agreement, I say that we go ahead and just slate that in for February, because I have no objection to watching that again.
I want to hear these other suggestions. I don't want to make up my mind too early.
Those are the other suggestions.
Oh,
that's it.
Well, that's not very many responses.
No,
we can.
But we have ones
out.
from the past too. So
we do. Yes, we will. We will not be lacking in watching, torturing ourselves and for your enjoyment.
No,
I guess
there's lots of clown movies that we can subject Sean to, and other movies that I hate with bad CGI cast for the ghost vampires.
I'm not against watching clown movies, you know? I mean, I've watched enough of them.
I feel like that's your response every time that we bring up a clown movie is I've watched enough of them.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe. It's probably true.
Let's wrap this up. So, actually, we can bring one thing up. We mentioned Frankenstein's a couple times. If we've already done Aerobicide or Killer Workout, if we're past the 23rd, we do know what our next event will be. It's going to be on February 13th. Of course, at Badge Brewing down in Corktown, we're going to be showing Reanimator, so you can, keep eyes open for that. Time will be 7:00 on February 13th, and there will be an episode coming out to pair with it. So that's one of those spots in February that is spoken for. Aside from that, please give Batch a follow too on social media. They're great. We love them. They're very, very good to us, and we want to keep loving them forever. So yeah, check them out as well. Follow us if you like on social media. We're at Dewey Pod Monster all over the place. Just search us and you will find us there. And of course, all of our episodes are available at yourunpodcast.com. That is the podcast network that we're happy to be members of. You can check out all the other shows there as well as all of our previous episodes. Or you can go to our site, which is crap.town. All of our old and upcoming episodes will be there as well. If you're hearing this and say, hey, I want to recommend a movie, you can do that on any of the places that we mentioned previously, or you can leave comments on YouTube, Spotify, etc. Any of those will count. We'll throw those in if we get more recommendations towards what sounds like the one Unspoken Force Tuesday in February. What year is this? Sean, what am I forgetting?
Well, I was going to say, normally we have a question of the week. If you want to have your answer read on the show, you can follow us on all the social medias at Dewey Pod Monster. If you like anything that you hear that we talk about on the show, we have links in the show notes to all the stuff we talk about. Most of it's free. I try to make them free links if I can find them. If not, the ones for Amazon might be affiliate links. If you click those links, if you buy those movies, if you rent them, if you buy something on Amazon after you look at the movie that I suggest or whatever, or link to, we might get $1 or $2, and that's the best way for you to support the show. Other than that, if you want to follow my Michigan craft beer adventures, which have been few and far between lately, you can check me out at youtube.drafttherapy.com or check me out on all social media at Draft Therapy.
So that's all we got for this week. We will be back next week with one more sweaty January movie. I'm actually quite looking forward to this one. I have a feeling it will either be the most torturous or the least torturous, but either way, I think that's going to be a high watermark. So we're going to bring that to you. And in the meantime, have a great week. Cheers.
Nowhere to go but up from here.
That's not true. We've covered worse.
True.
And just think, Crummy Movie March is a mere
month
away. At this point, when you're hearing this, 5 weeks away.
Yeah, so. I've already making my list, checking it twice.
Oh, I know you are.
Oh, yeah.
You are.
Absolutely.
All right. So that's it. We'll be back. Have a great week.
Blah, blah, blah.
Can't have some gore in it or something.
Fuck off!
Podcast is over. John, turn on the humidifier.
I want to say this month has been a real mixed bag. I feel like we've, let me restart that. Okay, here we go. So the movie, Jesus Christ, I'm going to start that one more time. So the movie so far, Jesus Christ, I did it again. I'm so thrown off by this humidifier.